Hi there, Noah from Curved Media. Today we're going to talk about Klout. Klout with a K, as you can see up here. Klout is a web network app that purports to determine your social influence or your influence across all of your social networks or online networks. I'm going to talk about why it doesn't do that and some of the pitfalls that you can find with Klout and the way it really works. Obviously, Klout doesn't give out their algorithm for how they determine your score. It's a score based on 0 to 100. The only one with a 100, by the way, is Justin Bieber. So yeah, let's kind of go into what Klout is. If you look at the page here, you can see I have a Klout score of 46. I usually hover between 46 and 49. My actual number here is 47.13. And I'm going to kind of go and explain why these big dips and jumps happen. Alright, so as you can see, it shows you your true reach, supposedly how many people you're actually reaching, how many people will actually, broadcast your thing, so what networks are you reaching, or they call it your amplification, and then your network, how good your network is, how influential your network is. Alright, so let's kind of go over what Klout gets out of this. Obviously, for individuals or brands or businesses who link up their networks to Klout, they get a number and they kind of have this built-in thing called Klout Perks, which allows you to basically get stuff for having a certain score. In addition, Klout also breaks down these categories and shows where you fall. So I think here's me. I'm falling in... it's a little glitchy too. A networker thing that says you know how to connect to the right people and share what's important to your audience. You generally share your network to help your followers. You have a high level of engagement and an influential audience. Great. Okay, whatever. So let's talk about, again, why Klout does this. Klout is doing something very creative and useful for marketers or businesses who want to know and have accurate data on people. So Klout, what they do is you connect all your networks, they get all of the data and your actions and everything you're doing from your individual networks. Here I have Twitter, Facebook, Google+, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Tumblr linked up. So you can see quite a few networks linked up. They get this data, start to form a pretty accurate and complete picture of what type of activities, what you're interested in, a lot of useful data. Mainly, though, the two places that I want to talk about where they're getting their data, and this will kind of go into why your score is what it is or how your score is determined, is they're really primarily concerned with Facebook and Foursquare, which I do not have linked up rather by Klout, because I don't use Foursquare because I'm personally just not a huge fan of letting everyone know where I am all of the time. It's not something that fills a need for me. So let's talk about why Klout is so interested and why your score is so heavily affected by Facebook and Foursquare. Now, if you go back to why Klout is important, or why it's useful from Klout's end, it's because they have all this juicy data compiled and tagged, pinned right to you. So let's say I'm a new restaurant that's opening up in town. I live in New York, so let's say there's a new restaurant opening up a couple blocks away. Klout has a very accurate profile of this zip code and people who live here. They might be able to provide, if that restaurant reached out, this is a totally made-up example, very accurate information about how to best market us or how maybe they could give us a perk for their new restaurant. So there's clearly a ton of value from Klout's standpoint of if they can compile all of this data and pin these amazingly, eerily accurate profiles of people, they could then go and use that information for whatever they want to use it for. So let's talk about why Facebook and Foursquare affect my score. So if you look down at my score, you can see over the past 30 days, I have these big jumps and dips. Very rarely am I kind of staying on the same level. It'll go down as low as 45, 45.81, and as high as 47.32. So that's a pretty big gap. It's 3 points almost. So the reason that my score dips so dramatically is because I use Facebook infrequently. I primarily use Twitter and Google Plus to get most of my information. I think there's some brilliant people on both of those. Not that there isn't on Facebook, but Facebook is more of a walled garden. There's not a lot of serendipitous activity that can get funneled in through Facebook. So I use Facebook pretty infrequently. When I do use it, I get decent engagement rates. People like my posts, they comment, they share. So I get pretty decent engagement. So whenever I make a Facebook status that gets feedback, my score typically skyrockets. The one odd day, you'll see it here. I made a post the other day, a status update, and people commented on it and it shot up. So that led me to think that, okay, well, Facebook clearly has a lot to do with your Klout score, because my Twitter, whatever I do on Twitter, I gain 30, 40 followers, lose 20 followers, it doesn't matter. But my Facebook definitely had a big impact on it. So that got me thinking, what else would have a big impact on it? So I went and looked at a lot of my friends who use Klout. So a couple of my friends really are into Foursquare. They pretty much, they can't go anywhere. Whoops. They pretty much can't go anywhere without checking in or letting people know where they are, blah, 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 right? Those people typically have significantly higher Klout scores. I'm talking about in the 50 to 60 range if they are active on social networks, and anywhere from 40 to 50 if they really are just not doing much. So why is it that Foursquare, in addition to Facebook, would have so much bearing on your Klout score? Well, the reason is pretty simple if you think about it. Because if you go back to Klout trying to compile these accurate profiles of you, you can see that if they had geolocation, where you actually physically are, as well as this profile, they're now forming an amazingly complete picture of a person. So, of course, it behooves Klout to bump your score up every time you check in somewhere or use a Facebook update, because the data that they're getting from those services is invaluable. It's compared to the rest of them, it's almost like nothing. They don't care. They're not going to text mine your Twitter or your LinkedIn or all of these other things. They care about data that they can directly attribute to you. So this kind of leads me back to my point about Klout. I've used it and recommended it to clients in the past, kind of on its early days, just to get kind of a baseline of where you are, and so you can set some benchmarks and goals. I will not be recommending Klout to anyone in the future. I think it's a pretty silly service for providing value if you're a business, brand, or individual. It really doesn't do what it purports to do. At best, rather than measure social influence, it measures the capacity to influence, which is a very different thing. I mean, just because I have a Klout score of 75, I could be banging on my keyboard over and over again, just writing gibberish and blasting it out. My Klout score is going to basically stay the same, but I'm obviously not influencing anyone. It's gibberish. So that's kind of Klout in a nutshell. And I just want you to be aware of how it works, why it exists, and the real reasons that determine your Klout score. All right, thanks, and have a great day, and until next time.